Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And in today's video, we'll discuss the latest staffing hires to Texas Tech men's basketball coaching staff, including one assistant coach and 5 staffers. We'll give you the rundown on them. And it's, hey, even one of the guys that we talked about earlier this week on the channel. But before we do that, like the video if you're liking all of this men's basketball content here on the channel. Twitter may be acting weird, but we're still going to be giving you daily videos here on YouTube. So this is your one-stop shop for everything Texas Tech men's basketball and, of course, football as well. Just hit that subscribe button and like the video to stay in the know on Texas Tech athletics right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel. All right, let's jump into this as Texas Tech, as I mentioned, hired an assistant coach and 5 other staffers. Let's run through the staffers before we get into really the nuts and bolts of who they hired as an assistant coach for Grant McCasland. We'll start with Clay Wilson. He will be the director of player development. We've also got Jordan Powell, director of administration and operations. Then we got Cooper Anderson, aka the Godfather over there in the Womble. He stays on as an assistant coordinator of operations. You've got Chris Nottingham, video coordinator, and then you've got Christian Hosley, the assistant strength and conditioning coach. Now, again, congratulations to all those individuals for making the staff and everything like that. But really, the name that everybody is interested right now in terms of who was added to the sideline staff for Grant McCasland is Luke Branwell. And we mentioned him a little bit earlier this week on the channel. If you want more in depth in terms of what he does schematically, go listen to that video and some of the players that he's coached up. But we're going to talk about exactly what he brings to the table in terms of maybe his role and what a little bit he's done in the past, just not as much in depth. Okay, he will serve an assistant coach for Grant McCasland after coming over from Sunrise Christian Academy, where he had a record of 224-39 in 10 seasons as the head coach there. He was also named the 2021 and 2022 Naismith High School Boys Basketball Coach of the Year, right? And he led Sunrise Christian to the 2022 National Interscholastic Basketball Conference Championship. A pretty big deal. Now, there's also other aspects of Barnwell's resume that really stand out to me. And really one of them is he's coached over 75, let me repeat that, 75 NCAA Division I players and worked with 6 NBA players. Okay. He's got guys up at Michigan State. He's got Layden Blocker at Arkansas. He's coached a couple guys in the NBA, as they said right there. But his team was also ranked number 1 throughout the 2022 season and won the inaugural, as I mentioned, National Interscholastic Basketball Championship. Now, he's also gone to the Final Four, but he's coached NBA players, including Kennedy Chandler, Kendall Brown. You may have heard of these next two, Grady Dick and Ochai Agbaji, and helped train Buddy Hield and Ron Baker. Buddy Hield, obviously, on that team for OU that went to the Final Four. Ron Baker played alongside Fred VanVleet. My goodness, I almost called him Ron VanVleet. Fred VanVleet up at Wichita State when they went to the Final Four. This is what Coach McCasland had to say over on TexasTech.com about the hiring of Luke Branwell. Coach Barnwell has great head coaching experience and has recruited and coached some of the best players around the world, McCasland said. He's got great basketball feel, but his ability to relate to players is what separates him. We are thrilled to have him be a part of the coaching staff. Again, I like this hire for a plethora of reasons. Really, the main reason is this. When you look at what Grant McCasland targets, right, when it comes to the coaching staff, he wants winners. He wants guys that have been in big moments, no matter the level, right, that have won in a coaching spot, right? That's what he wants, right? You got a couple guys, obviously, and himself, Matt Brower, Jokey, they obviously did that at UNT. You've got a guy now in Barnwell that is one at one of the highest levels of high school basketball and has coached 75 D1 players, not to mention 6 pros, and helped train Buddy Hield and Ron Baker, right? When you look at what he brings to the table, I'm most interested to see what those recruiting connections look like at the high school ranks, if any, right? But let alone, he obviously knows his X's and O's when it comes down to it. You don't have that kind of record, right? Again, when you look at it, 178-28 record competing against elite basketball programs in the nation at Sunrise Christian. it's one of those deals where you look at his resume and it's obviously played the part. And he's obviously going to be a great addition, in my opinion. He was a guy that when I first heard him, I was like, oh, that's interesting from a lot of standpoints, because there's not too many prep schools around the country that produce D1 talent quite like Sunrise Christian Academy. And he's one of those guys that has obviously helped them get there. Is he the only reason why? No. And Coach Barnwell won't say that he is. But obviously, he's done some things correctly there at Sunrise Christian Academy that I think personally can translate to Texas Tech. Now, I do want to see how his X's and O's philosophy does translate to the Big 12. I think that's a valid question. I also want to see what kind of recruiter he is, right? I want to see exactly what kind of role he has on this assistant coaching as an assistant coach for Texas Tech, I should say. Because again, you got to remember, there's different levels and different priorities for different coaches on that staff. Some are the more X's and O's guys. Some are the more, hey, I'm going to be the recruiter kind of guy. I'm going to be kind of a hybrid. I'm interested to see. I think Barnwell will probably be the hybrid guy when it all comes down to it. But his resume is very, very impressive. He's a Kansas native, stayed there, obviously, to coach at Sunrise Christian Academy, played college basketball himself. Yeah, so really good stuff right there in terms of what Coach Barnwell brings to the table. Again, has coached NBA players, Kennedy Chandler, Kendall Brown, Grady Dick, Ochai Agbaji, and helped train Buddy Hield and Ron Baker, right? You're talking about 3 pros there that are really, really good. And Buddy Hield, Ochai Agbaji, and Grady Dick. Ron Baker had his stint in the league for about 5-6 years. You'll take that any day of the week. And then Kendall Brown solid as well with Kennedy Chandler, right? You've got guys there that have played at a high level. I'm just interested to see how it translates and who else they add. Again, if you ask me who I think they add to the staff, I think it's going to be Dave Smart. I really do. He's kind of taken that place now for me on this, hypothetical or assistant coach, hype trainer, whatever it is for Ben McCollum, where I think Dave Smart is a finalist for an assistant coaching position at Texas Tech until it is otherwise filled or he gets that job, right? That's kind of how I feel about it right now. But I do like this Luke Barnwell hire. I think it's a solid one. I'm interested again to see his role, but you also got some other staffers officially announced as well. We'll run through them again. Obviously, Luke Barnwell was the major one at the assistant coach position. You got Clay Wilson, the director of player development. That's a big one. You got Jordan Powell, the director of administration and operations. You got Cooper Anderson, a.k.a. the Godfather, right there, the assistant coordinator of operations. You got Chris Nottingham, the video coordinator, and then you got Christian Hossley as well as the assistant strength and conditioning coach. But the big name on there, as we all know, is Luke Barnwell, and he comes from Sunrise Christian Academy in Kansas after 10 seasons as the head coach with a 224-39 record. Definitely impressive there. How will it translate? Obviously has 71 D1 players come from that program during his time there and has coached 6 pros as well. Big time stuff from Coach McCaslin in terms of getting him. I'm just interested to see what it looks like, but I'm definitely excited to have Luke Barnwell on that staff, and I think Red Raider Nation probably should as well. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hopefully Twitter's backing up and y'all can see this, or hopefully you find it on YouTube. Either way, join the Back to 12 squad. We got a couple members in there right now. It's cheap. It gets you priority access in terms of your comments being answered here on the channel. And hey, you get to be a part of the fastest growing YouTube channel for a Texas Tech community there is. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, join the membership, like the video. All 3, do 2 out of 3, whatever you want to do. But I'll tell you this, there's only one place to get the latest breaking Texas Tech news. It's, of course, the Back to 12 podcast channel.